They said Ty Borden was gone forever. But sometimes, when the wind moves across the Heartland fields, it feels like his spirit never left. On one quiet morning, something changed. The air felt heavier, the silence deeper. And Amy Fleming. She felt it first. The day began like any other on the Heartland Ranch. The golden light of dawn spilled over the hills, touching the horses with a soft glow. Amy tightened the saddle on Spartan, her faithful horse, the one she'd trained alongside Ty so many years ago. Every sunrise still brought a flicker of his memory, the way he laughed, the way he believed in her, the way he could calm even the wildest horse with a single touch. But this morning felt different. As Amy rode along the familiar path by the river, a sudden chill brushed her face. Spartan stopped, ears flicking forward. Amy looked ahead. There, near the old fence line, stood a man. His back was turned, shoulders broad beneath a worn jacket, his hands gently resting on a horse's neck. The horse looked nervous, caught in a broken wire, but the man's calm voice soothed it instantly. Something in that voice made Amy's heart skipped. It wasn't the words, it was the tone, that quiet strength, that warmth. It was a sound she hadn't heard in years, yet one she could never forget. She wanted to call out, but her throat froze. She blinked, trying to shake off the impossible thought rising in her chest. No, it can't be him. Ty Borden was gone. She'd seen it. She'd lived through it. She'd cried every night for months. And yet, as the man gently freed the horse and turned slightly just enough for the light to catch his profile, Amy's heart ached. The man didn't look her way. He simply patted the horse's neck, whispered something she couldn't hear, and started walking toward the woods beyond the pasture. Amy felt her pulse race. She urged Spartan forward, ready to follow, but then she stopped. Her hands trembled on the reins. Why am I doing this? It's just a stranger, isn't it? The morning breeze carried a faint scent of pine and dust, the scent that used to cling to Ty's old jacket after long days at the ranch. Amy's eyes filled with tears. She took a deep breath, her voice barely a whisper. Ty? The only answer was the soft rustle of the wind through the grass as she turned back toward the ranch. She couldn't shake the feeling that the universe had just sent her a message, a whisper from the past. And somewhere, deep down, a tiny spark of hope flickered to life again. The morning after that strange encounter, the ranch felt different. The horses were restless, the dogs barked without reason, and the air carried an odd stillness, as if the land itself was holding its breath. Amy tried to shake off the feeling. She threw herself into work, brushing the horses, fixing fences, pretending everything was fine. But every time she looked toward the northern trail, her heart whispered the same name, Ty. Later that day, clouds began to gather. The wind picked up, tossing the golden grass into soft waves. Jack was fixing the truck when Amy approached him, her face pale. Grandpa, she said quietly, something strange happened yesterday. I saw a man near the east field. He was helping a horse, and I swear he looked like Ty. Jack froze for a moment, then set his wrench down. His eyes softened, but his voice was steady. Amy, he said, grief can play tricks on a person. You know that. But maybe it's not about who you saw. Maybe it's about what you felt. Amy didn't answer. She just looked out toward the hills. The clouds were heavy now, rolling in from the west. It felt real, she whispered. Too real. That evening, as the rain began to fall, Amy went to the barn to check on the horses. She was brushing Spartan when she heard footsteps outside, slow, careful, deliberate. The door creaked open. A figure stood in the shadows, rain dripping from a hooded coat. Can I help you? Amy asked, her voice trembling slightly. The man stepped forward, still keeping his face hidden. In his hand was a small worn scarf. Her scarf. She must have dropped it yesterday near the fence line. You dropped this, he said softly. His voice carried a deep calm, but also pain. The kind of pain that comes from remembering something you wish you could forget. Amy took the scarf, her fingers brushing his hand for just a second. The touch sent a shock through her chest, warm, familiar, impossible. She tried to look at him, but before she could, He stepped back into the shadows. "Wait," she called out. "Who are you?" He paused at the doorway, the rain outlining his silhouette. For a heartbeat, it seemed like he might answer. Then, without another word, he walked away into the storm. Amy stood frozen. The scarf in her hand smelled faintly of pine and leather Ty's scent. Her heart raced, torn between fear and hope. Maybe it was just a coincidence. But maybe, just maybe, something impossible was unfolding. That night, Amy couldn't sleep. Every sound, every flicker of wind outside her window pulled her back to that moment. She lay awake, staring into the darkness, wondering if the man would return her if he had been a ghost all along. Outside, the storm faded into silence, leaving only the soft hum of the night. Somewhere beyond the hills, a lone horse neighed, and the whisper of the past stirred again. Sleep had become a stranger to Amy. Every night, she'd lie awake watching the moonlight crawl across her ceiling, waiting for the answers that never came. The face of that mysterious man haunted her, half hidden, half familiar, like a memory trying to break through fog. The next morning, the ranch was quiet, almost too quiet. Even the horses seemed to sense her unrest. Spartan nudged her shoulder softly, as if trying to say, "You're not imagining things." Amy smiled faintly, brushing her hand along his mane. "You miss him too, don't you, boy?" she whispered. Later, she found herself sitting on the porch with a cup of coffee gone cold. Jack walked up, wiping his hands on a rag, and studied her for a moment. "You've been a million miles away lately," he said gently. Amy hesitated before answering. "Grandpa, what if? What if Ty's not gone?" The words came out trembling, fragile. What if he's out there and he doesn't remember? Jack sat down beside her. "Amy," he said, his voice low and kind, "you loved that man more than life itself. Losing him left a hole nothing can fill. But sometimes when we want something so bad, our hearts see what our eyes can't." Tears welled up, but Amy shook her head. "No, Grandpa, this wasn't just in my head." He knew Spartan. He calmed him like Ty used to. And when he handed me my scarf, I felt something. "I know that sounds crazy, but..." Jack put a hand on her shoulder. "It doesn't sound crazy," he said. "It sounds like hope. Just be careful with it." Amy nodded, but her thoughts were spinning. The smell of rain, the touch of that hand, the softness in that voice, it was too much like him. Yet she couldn't explain it. Ty was buried. She'd been there. She'd seen the funeral. How could this be? That night, Amy went into the barn again. The old wooden beams creaked above her as the wind howled through the gaps. She walked to the stall where Ty used to keep his tools. His old gloves still hung on a nail, covered in dust. She picked them up, closed her eyes, and let the memories flood back. His laugh, his patience, the way he'd say, "We can fix anything, Ames, even what's broken." Her breath hitched. Maybe this was her chance to believe that again. Suddenly, Spartan snorted and stomped his hooves. Amy turned toward the open barn door. For a split second, she thought she saw a shadow move past the fence line. Her heart jumped, and before she could think, she ran outside, barefoot, breathless, calling into the night. "Ty! Ty, is that you?" No answer. Only the sound of the wind carrying her voice into the distance. She stood there for a long time, staring into the darkness, shivering not from cold, but from the ache of wanting to believe. Deep down, a war raged inside her, a battle between reason and faith, between what she knew and what she felt. Amy turned back toward the barn, tears glistening in her eyes. "If you're out there," she whispered, "just give me a sign." And as if the universe had heard her, the porch light flickered once, twice, then steadied. Amy froze, her breath caught in her throat. The night had answered, but what it meant, she didn't yet know. The next morning came wrapped in mist. The ranch was veiled in silver fog, the kind that makes everything feel like a dream caught between night and day. Amy stood by the window, clutching her scarf, the same one the stranger had returned. The fabric still held that faint trace of pine and smoke, and every breath she took pulled her deeper into the mystery. Down by the barn, the sound of hooves echoed faintly. Spartan neighed, restless again. Amy grabbed her jacket and ran outside, her boots crunching the damp earth. The fog made it hard to see more than a few yards ahead, but then she heard it softly, steady, the rhythm of footsteps. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling just enough to betray her hope. From the haze, a figure appeared. The same man, tall, calm, but different this time. His coat was gone, his shirt torn slightly at the sleeve, revealing a faint scar on his wrist. Amy's breath hitched. That scar, she knew it. It was the one Ty got years ago, the summer he fell through the old barn ladder. She remembered patching it up herself, teasing him that he should have been more careful. The man stopped a few feet away. The fog swirled between them like a living thing, carrying the scent of rain and memory. He lowered his head slightly. "I didn't mean to frighten you," he said quietly. "I just came to say thank you." "For the scarf?" Amy stared at him, her voice caught somewhere between disbelief and need. "Who are you?" She whispered. He hesitated, then spoke slowly, almost painfully. "I don't really know anymore." His words hung in the air like ghosts. "I woke up months ago in a small town north of here. No name, no memory, just flashes. A ranch, a woman's face, a little girl's laugh. I thought they were dreams, until I saw you." Amy's knees felt weak. "A little girl?" she asked softly. He nodded. "Yes, she was riding a pony, smiling up at me. When I saw her, it was like a spark went off in my chest. Like my heart recognized something my mind couldn't." Amy stepped closer, tears filling her eyes. "Lyndy," she breathed, "you're talking about my daughter?" The man's eyes widened, his lips parting as if the name unlocked something inside him. He pressed a hand to his temple, wincing. "That name. I've heard it before, Lyndy." "And Amy." He looked at her then, really looked, his eyes meeting hers through the fog. Familiar eyes. Kind eyes. The ones she'd spent years dreaming about. Amy's voice broke. "Ty." The man flinched, pain flickering across his face like a shadow. "I don't know," he said. "I want to be. Everything inside me says I am. But my memories?" He shook his head. "They're pieces. Broken pieces." Amy's tears fell freely now, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. She wanted to run to him, to hold him, to believe without question. But fear anchored her feet. "Then let me help you remember," she whispered. "Let me remind you who you are." He looked at her for a long time, the fog curling between them like a curtain closing on the past. Then, slowly, he reached into his pocket and pulled out something small and old, faded photo. Amy's breath caught. It was a picture of the two of them, smiling in front of the Heartland barn, their hands intertwined. "I found this weeks ago," he said softly. "Didn't know who you were until now." Amy's heart broke open. She stepped forward, her hand trembling as she touched the photo. "You're home, Ty," she whispered, voice trembling. "You made it back?" The fog began to lift, sunlight spilling through in golden shards. For the first time in years, Amy felt warmth in her chest. Not just memory, but life. And as the man looked back at her, confusion slowly giving way to recognition, the past and present finally collided. He whispered her name, quiet, certain. Real Amy. Her world stopped. The sun had barely broken through the clouds when Amy felt the shift in the air, the calm that comes after a storm. The fog was gone, replaced by a gentle golden glow spreading over Heartland. But inside her, the storm was only beginning to settle. Ty was back, or at least, the man who carried his eyes, his touch, his voice. Yet doubts still clung to her like dust that refused to wash away. He stood in front of her now, holding that faded photograph like it was a lifeline. His fingers traced the worn edges as if trying to pull the truth from its surface. Amy couldn't look away. The way he breathed, the way his shoulders lifted and filled, was all so familiar. Her mind screamed for reason, but her heart whispered one word: believe. A soft wind brushed through the yard, carrying with it the sounds of the ranch hooves striking dirt. Birds calling in the distance, Spartan's soft whinny. Amy turned toward the barn. Spartan had been uneasy for days, but now As Ty took a hesitant step forward, the horse's ears perked up. He gave a low, gentle neigh, kind he used to reserve only for Ty. Amy's breath caught. "He remembers you," she said softly. Tybeka, she could no longer bring herself to call him anything else, smiled faintly. "Feels like he remembers me better than I remember myself." He walked toward Spartan, slow and careful. The horse didn't flinch. Instead, he pressed his muzzle against Ty's shoulder, a quiet trust passing between them. Amy watched, tears forming again. But this time they weren't from pain, they were from the fragile, dangerous hope blooming in her chest. Ty turned back to her. "When I touch him," he said, voice trembling slightly, "it's like something wakes up inside me. Little pieces. Moments. I see your face, the ranch, a little girl laughing in the snow. It's blurry, but it's there." Amy stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "Those are your memories, Ty. You're remembering us." He reached out, his hand hovering just above hers. "And if I'm wrong?" Amy's voice softened, trembling like a fragile flame. "Then we start over. From here. From now." For a long moment, they just stood there, two souls trying to bridge the gap between past and present. The air seemed to hum, alive with everything they'd lost and everything they might find again. Then, slowly, Ty took her hand. The touch was gentle at first, uncertain, but then firm real. The connection sent a rush of warmth through Amy, a flood of memories breaking free, their wedding, their daughter's first steps, the laughter in the kitchen, the smell of rain-soaked hay. Ty's eyes widened, as if seeing it all too. His breath hitched, and then he whispered, voice breaking, "Amy, I remember." Amy covered her mouth, tears spilling freely now. "You remember?" He nodded, closing the distance between them. The hospital. The cold, the darkness, and then lights. Your voice. I tried to follow it, but everything went black. Until now. Amy let out a sob that was half laughter, half relief. She reached up, touching his face, still half in disbelief, half afraid he'd vanish if she blinked. "You came back to me," she said, voice trembling. "I never really left," he whispered. "My heart never did." They fell into each other's arms, the world melting away. The air smelled of pine and dust and home. The ranch, the sky, the wind, everything seemed to pause for them. Holding this moment still, from the porch, Jack watched quietly, his eyes misty but smiling. He tipped his hat to the sky, whispering under his breath, "Welcome home, son." And in that moment, Heartland wasn't just a place, it was a heartbeat. One that had stopped for years but had finally started again. The sun dipped low beyond the rolling hills of Heartland, painting the sky in strokes of amber and rose. The world felt quieter now like. The ranch itself was exhaling after years of holding its breath. Amy stood by the fence, the evening wind tugging gently at her hair, watching Ty help Lyndy feed Spartan. Their laughter mingled with the sound of rustling leaves and distant crickets, a sound she thought she'd never hear again. For a long time, Amy just watched, afraid that blinking would break the spell. Every moment felt borrowed, every breath fragile and precious. But the warmth in her chest told her this wasn't a dream. It was life mended, reborn, and real. As the sky deepened into twilight, Amy's voice began to drift softly like a whisper carried on the wind. "I used to think love was something you could lose. Something that ends when a heartbeat fades. But I was wrong. Love doesn't vanish, it waits. It lingers in the quiet places, in the smell of hay after rain. In the soft nudge of a horse who remembers the hands that once cared for him." She smiled, her eyes glistening as she looked at Ty, who stood silhouetted by the fading light. His hand rested on Lyndy's shoulder, and the way he looked at Amy, steady, familiar, right, and full of quiet apology, made her heart ache in the most beautiful way. "We all walk through storms," her voice continued, "and sometimes we lose ourselves in the thunder. But if we listen closely, if we keep believing, the heart finds its way home." The camera of life zoomed out slowly, the ranch glowing beneath the soft shimmer of the dying sun. Amy's hands gripped the fence post, her eyes closing as she whispered the words she'd been too afraid to say for years. Thank you for coming back. Ty, thank you for finding us again. In the distance, a horse neighed, and the wind seemed to carry her words across the fields, as if Heartland itself was answering back. Maybe miracles aren't big or loud, Amy said, her tone soft and sure now. Maybe they're quiet returns, unexpected mornings, and second chances we never thought we'd get. Ty's return wasn't about changing the past. It was about reminding me that some loves are stronger than time. Stronger than loss, stronger than death. The camera lingers on the family one last time, Amy. Ty and Lyndy, framed by the setting sun, the Heartland sign glowing faintly behind them. Some stories don't end, Amy's voice whispers. They just find new beginnings. The screen fades to black, leaving only the echo of hooves in the distance and the final line appearing in white text. Dedicated to every Heartland fan who still believes in forever. Soft guitar chords fade out, blending into the night, leaving behind nothing but peace and the promise that love, once found, never truly leaves. The night settled softly over Heartland, wrapping the ranch in silver moonlight. The storm had passed, the past had found its way home, and the world finally felt still. From the porch, Amy sat with a blanket around her shoulders, a cup of tea in her hands. Inside, she could hear Ty's laughter as he read a bedtime story to Lyndy, his voice warm, deep and steady, like it had always been meant to fill that home for the first time in years. The sound didn't make her cry. It made her whole. Amy smiled faintly, her gaze lifting toward the sky where stars blinked like tiny fires. You did it, she whispered to herself. You came back. The door creaked open, and Ty stepped out, the familiar silhouette framed by the glow of the living room behind him. His movements were slower now, a bit uncertain, as though the world was still new, but the calm confidence in his eyes was unmistakable. He leaned against the railing beside her. She's asleep, he said softly. Amy nodded, smiling. She missed her dad. Ty looked at her, the corners of his mouth lifting slightly. So did I. They stood there in silence for a while. The sound of the night wrapping around them, the wind through the trees, the gentle rustle of horses in the pasture, the heartbeat of Heartland still strong after everything. Amy turned toward him. You know, there's a lot to remember. A lot to rebuild. Ty nodded. Then let's start tomorrow. Amy tilted her head. Tomorrow? Yeah, he said, smiling wider now. I think it's time Heartland felt alive again. The camera pans across the ranch, the fences, the barn, the open fields. Everything glows under the moonlight, alive with quiet promise. The world has changed, but so has the family who calls it home. Then, in the distance, headlights approach along the dirt road. A truck stops at the gate. Amy squints into the night. Are we expecting someone? She asks. Ty shakes his head slowly. No. The headlights flicker off, and a figure steps out, a woman's silhouette, carrying something under her arm. She pauses at the gate, looking toward the ranch house. The air grows heavy again, charged with mystery. Amy and Ty exchange a glance. Another lost soul finding her way home. Amy asks softly. Ty's expression turns thoughtful. Or maybe another story just beginning. Camera zooms out. The ranch bathed in moonlight, wind whispering through the trees. A soft instrumental version of the Heartland theme plays as white text fades in, to be continued. Season 19. Episode 24. A new dawn at Heartland. The screen fades to black, leaving only the distant sound of hooves echoing against the hills, steady, familiar, eternal,